goes, "Oh yeah, I set you up for I was setting you up, puppy." And I was like, "Are you?" I'm like, and I went over, I went, I went over to Bernal. I was like, "Bro," he goes, "I told you, I told you." I'm like, "Dude, all right." Like, I don't think I ever shook Roberto Perez off, like ever after that. Of course, they hover around me.
That's us. I'm TJ. That guy over there is Zack. And if you're watching on YouTube, there's another face. Who is that? It's a familiar face.
Oh, he's reading I heard that's a good read.
Zack, rocked.
I appreciate. I think we do a pretty good job, Zack, pretending like we know what we're talking about. But it's nice to occasionally bring on somebody on the show that actually might know what they're talking about. So today's guest, we are so excited. It's been, well, for Zack and I, it's been months, maybe even years in the making wanting to have you on. But now it makes so much sense. Former Cleveland pitcher Nick Goody, one of our favorites, joins the show. Nick, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, man, I miss you guys. It's been quite a long time, man. I've only seen Zack on TV asking all the tough questions. TJ, I haven't seen you in a little while, man, but I was happy you guys reached out. I'm happy to be on here.
I saw you last summer when you and Brandon Geyer came and put on just a theatrical performance of a ceremonial first pitch. And
yeah, I almost missed him.
Which is hard to do. Most pitchers, he's a magnet, right?
Yeah. Well, so we came in, we planned it. I'm like, listen, I got to hit you. And he's like, what? And I'm like, 50% of me was like, you know what? Let me just let it rip, because I still throw every now and then. I'm like, let me let it rip, light up the gun a little bit, see if I can pop a 92 or something and get signed again. And then the other part of me was like, you know what? I got to hit him. I was like, let me throw the knuckleball. I said, BG, I'm going to throw you a knuckleball. Just stand there. It's not going to be hard. Just wear it. And then when I got there, I threw just an absolute terrible knuckleball. And it was just floated up, and he had to jump up and get whacked in the arm. It actually came out a little hotter than I anticipated, and he had a nice little bruise on there for the next day.
All right, so is it more nerve-wracking before you do that, or actually just taking the mound, doing what you were paid to do?
Honestly, probably that, because I was like trying to hit him, but he wasn't wearing a helmet, so I couldn't hit him in the head. Plus, I was throwing a knuckleball, and it was just like, there's a lot of factors that could go wrong, and I was like, damn, if I absolutely miss him, or if I square him up in the face, I mean, yeah, we're probably gonna go viral, but at the same time, like, not a good look for your boy.
I feel like that's a movie script, though. Like, you're plotting this. You're considering throwing 92 for a ceremonial first pitch. Like, is there going to be some movie producer in the stands who's going to see it, or a scout? Like, some scout's going to see this and say, "Hey, like, we got to give this guy another look." Did you see the ceremonial first pitch?
Listen, that was in the back of my mind. I was like, you know what? If there's put me in the outfield. Let me just launch one from the upper deck and just see if I can throw somebody out at home. But I also wanted to run in from the bullpen. I think that got nixed too. I was like, let me run in from the bullpen and come in and just actually go through this again. Like, I've done it before. And they were like, time. And I was like, all right, whatever. So, yeah, no, there was a lot of things I wanted to do. Unfortunately, only one of them came true. I got to hit him. So it is what it is. Here you go. I got this going on too today.
Nice. What do you think about the new logo? They got different threads this year. You a fan?
Honestly, I have mixed emotions. I love Chief Wahoo, dude. I mean, I got a couple of jerseys hanging up from my time. My favorite was, I think this is the 70s or something jersey or whatever in red. I don't know which, is it the 70s?
Yeah, with like
with this dope
the all red top and like the Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite. We used that one in Tampa when I played, but this is the postseason one at 17, and obviously, love Chief Wahoo. But it is what it is. I don't think they're going to go back, but if they did, I think a lot of fans wouldn't be mad about it. Maybe a little bit because they just bought all this new merch, but they'll get over it.
Nick, one of the biggest fears I have for anybody that was a former player now is going to jump sides and start doing some content like Zack and I do. Zack writing, us doing this podcast, and you're now joining this environment. One of the biggest fears I have is that you're going to realize how easy this is. We've pretended like this is difficult, and you're going to see how easy it is to just sit back with a couple of knuckleheads and talk about the game that you love. But this is a fun transition for you, I'm sure. I'm sure you would much rather still be out playing, participating, doing the thing you've loved for your entire life. But now this is a whole new a new chapter for you, and now you get to do it part of covering a team that you played for 3 years. That has to be fun.
Yeah, no, it definitely. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's super easy. I was in the booth a couple of years ago with for UCF baseball down the like they're like 10 minutes from my house. So I went down there. They needed somebody to cover a couple games, and my first game was a little rocky. I didn't know when to plug in as the analyst, and I got better the next couple of times. That was a little, I eventually I think I'd like to get into that a little bit. And then last year. Cleveland on that trip, they got me on a segment as a guest, and they gave me like, I'm texting Bart, I'm texting the guys. I'm like, hey, can I get in the booth? Let me get in the booth. I just want to talk shop. And I woke up and I had a text message at like 10. They're like, hey, I can't get you in the booth, but you can go on the pregame show in an hour if you want. And I'm like, bro, what? Like. You give me an hour, they're like, we're going to talk about the bullpen. We're going to talk about Clase's slider or Clase's cutter, Gaddis's slider, some of the bullpens you've been on. So immediately, like, my wife and my oldest son, who you met, they were in the room, and I'm just like scouring, just writing down. Dude, I had front and page back, like, of just straight notes on all their analytics, everything, stuff that I'm like, I can dabble in, I can speak the lingo, but I don't think fans really care about that too much. And then so I get there and I have probably 20 minutes worth of notes and a 3-minute segment, which I didn't even know. We got done with the segment and I'm like, I didn't even get to cover the bullpens I was on. I didn't even get to cover like Tito. I didn't get to there's so much more that I had. And they're like, well, that was it. And I was like, dude, and I felt like I was just talking nonstop. So long story short, I had a great time. My kid loved it. My wife didn't want me to be around the game a lot more. And so I just started peppering them with like, hey, if you need a guy, let me come in. And eventually I got hooked up with Mark Kayaff, MLB Network, and then he put me in contact with Ryan Spilborz, and Spilly put me in contact with Doug Johnson. And I just kind of hounded Doug and finally gave me an opportunity. So I'm super pumped, dude. I'm excited for it. Like, I'm only covering a couple series this year, but I want to make it memorable.
I feel like it's appropriate that you had that like little notice and just jump right into it, because for people who don't know the story of how you got traded to the Cleveland organization in the first place while you're on your honeymoon, and like it's almost like it's full circle. Can you just share what that was like for those who haven't heard the story?
Yeah. So and to be completely honest with you, every time we take a trip, something bad in my baseball career happened. So we banged them. Like, so, was it 2016? I think it was December. Kate and I, my wife Kate, we got married. We planned a trip to go to St. Lucia for our honeymoon. We're all jacked up. Obviously I've been in the big leagues now. Probably, I think at that point I had a year in, split between 2 years. And, so I had a little bit of cash and we're like, all right, we got married. We're going to do our honeymoon. And literally like probably 7:00 at night before our flight the next day, I get a call from Brian Cashman. He's like, hey, Nick, just want to let you know we signed Chapman, and we're gonna DFA you. And I'm like, what? I didn't know what to expect. He's like, hey, but we want to keep you. We want to keep you in the system. We would love for you to sign back, if that's a possibility. And I'm like, yeah, I was just like at a loss of words. I had no idea what to say. I'm about to go. I'm at a very happy point in my life where I'm about to go on my honeymoon. And then literally the day before, I'm like, oh, shit, I'm unemployed. like what do I do? And so that night I went on like a 2 mile run, just throwing my headset and just like I had to get out. So I ran around our neighborhood. I remember I bought the Kid Cudi soundtrack and was just like running and running and running. And for like the first like 2 days on my honeymoon down there, I was just like stressed and texting my agent. So I really didn't get to enjoy it. But then like on day 3, he texted me. He's like, "Hey, Cleveland's trading for you." And then as soon as I got that text, I lost my glasses. I think I lost my phone. I might have partook in some alcoholic beverages, and it was great. It was great. It ended up being one of the best texts, and obviously for me, uh, I think it was a turning point in my career. So forever grateful for that. So thank you for DFAing me.
I mean, it's
Appreciate
such
it.
a weird situation that a lot of players have to go through. But the Yankees drafted you on 2 separate occasions, right? They draft you once and then drafted you again, and then you end up DFA'd. And on one hand, I'm sure it's like you question yourself just as anybody would in this situation. But you also said they brought back a great pitcher here that squeezed you off the roster. So there's part of that. And then here's Cleveland. I don't remember what the reputation was. We now think of Cleveland being sort of a pitching factory, but for you, you see a team that was just in the World Series, and now they're trading for you. They're going out of their way to acquire you. What are you thinking joining a team like Cleveland at that point?
Well, I would. It's funny because New York had a very good bullpen as well, right? Very strong bullpen. If you look at in 15 and 16 in the pens that I was a part of, you can see multiple all-stars: Miller, Chapman, Betances, Kirby Yates at the time, Jonathan Holder, who had a decent career. So, we had Chase and Shreve. We had a very strong bullpen. Adam Warren was another one. And, it was hard for me to get meaningful innings. Obviously, any inning in the big leagues is, I'm not knocking that. It's great. But if you want to get paid and you want to, go further along in your career, you got to throw leverage situations, and I wasn't getting that. So when I got traded to Cleveland, I look at their bullpen and I saw what obviously. I mean, I played with Cody Allen in high school, played against them, and obviously I played with Andrew Miller in New York, and I look at their bullpen and I'm like, God bless, like 9, 8, 7, 6, like everything is taken. I'm like, all right, well, you look at it from the outside in, and you're like, damn, that's tough. But then when you finally get in there, you can kind of, you pitch your way into certain situations. And so like I knew Cleveland had a good team. I was super pumped to play for Terry Francona. And I reached out to Cody Allen and Miller, and there were some former Yankees that had played, who were on there with Zack McAllister as well. And so when I got there, it was a really smooth transition. Those guys welcomed me in pretty with open arms, and that spring training I had probably one of the best spring trainings I've ever had, and aside from 2020 before COVID. But I had a really good spring training. Ended up not making the team. I remember walking into the office, and it was Cherney, Antonetti, Tito, and Mickey Callaway. And they were like, "Hey, we're gonna go with Sean Armstrong." And at this point, I was like, "Dude, like I think I gave up maybe one run in like 11 or 12 innings, and just absolutely dominated." And I looked at him, I'm like, "Hey, what?" Like, at some point, you're just like, "Listen, like at this point, I don't care." Like, so I asked him, like, "Look, what else could I have done? What else could I have done to make this team?" And Tito was like, "He's like, to be completely honest with you, you couldn't have done anything else, nothing else. You did everything you could." He's like, "Go down to AAA." He goes, "Keep pitching the way you're pitching, and when you come back," he goes, "you'll be up in the next 2 weeks." And so, obviously I'm a little bit bitter, but that went away real quick after talking to him. He pulled me aside, and Mickey did too, and they talked to me, and then sure enough, dude, like 2 weeks later, I was up in the big leagues, and then pretty much stayed there the whole time.
And then you blink and you're winning 22 games in a row.
Yeah, dude,
I mean, that's
was
what's, yeah, like you have no idea what, I mean, you obviously you just said, you get sent to Cleveland and they've got a loaded bullpen, and you don't make the team, and I would imagine you're thinking like, how can I like get called up, stick with them, prove to them I'm worth it, and next thing you know, you're part of an elite bullpen, the best team in the league. I mean, you couldn't script that.
No, dude, it was it's funny because in New York I was so used to like, all right, if I pitched, I was getting sent down the next day. Like that's just the way it was. They called it like the Scranton Express. So it was just a revolving door of like that last bullpen guy. And so every time I pitched, I was like, damn, I'd walk into the stadium, look around the locker room, like, all right, who's here? Who's the new guy here? Nobody's here. Oh, thank God. I got another day. But when I went to Cleveland, I threw 2 innings against Minnesota, my first outing, and I gave up a homer to Polanco, I believe it was. I think that was who it was. Shortstop for him, lefty hitter. Maybe I think he was a switch hitter actually. And I came into the bullpen, or I came into the dugout after throwing 2 innings, and like for sure, in New York, if you threw 2 innings, option the next day. And I'm sitting on the in the dugout. I snagged a Scooby snack from Tito, like relaxed a little bit, and then the half inning ended, so I was getting ready to go down into the dugout or into the locker room, and Tito comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, you good to pitch tomorrow?" And I was like, um, I have never done that. Uh, he goes, if anybody asks you, you're good to pitch tomorrow. Like you're up for tomorrow. I said, I'm up for tomorrow. I'll be up for every single game. He goes, I want you to stay. He's like, I don't want you to go back to AAA. I want you to stay. And like for me, like I had goosebumps because I was like, dude, that like to me that was like that's what I needed to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like I needed to hear somebody who had confidence in me, who was like, listen, I got your back. I needed a manager like that, and Tito was that guy for me. Who just was like, listen, I don't care what anybody says. I want you here. And I was like, all right. And like for me, that was just like the ultimate. I rode on a lot of confidence. If you ask anybody I play with, like for me, that like took it to another level.
And I think we try to think we have an idea of what a manager like Tito brings to players like you, and how he's able to really settle you or give you exactly what you need in that moment. Is that of all the managers you've played for, is that something that far exceeds anything else that they bring from their perspective? Just someone that knows exactly the right motivational words to get you where you need to be, more than how they're handling any situation, eighth inning pinch hitting, all that kind of thing. Being able to just bring the most out of you. Was there anyone as good at Tito as doing that?
I've had 3 coaches in my career that really, I think, kind of shaped me as a player and as a person. Aside from my parents, obviously, right? But the first one was my junior college coach. His name's Tim Hill Senior. He passed away, but we 7. Hold on a second. I need to get up. That's my oldest. These kids never leave me alone.
It's a good thing and a bad thing.
I need to get out of here. So 7, I made a ton of errors in the infield. I signed to college as a shortstop, made a ton of errors in the infield. He brought me off and was like, hey, I remember he was on the mound, and I was literally like crisscross applesauce sitting in front of him. And he just was like, I want you to be a pitcher. I want you to be a two-way guy, da, da, da. And so he instilled that earlier in me, like, you can do this type of thing. Then fast forward to LSU. When I was at LSU, Paul Maneri, I had a terrible fall there, and he challenged me on our winter exit meetings. He was like, listen, if you want to go to another school, I'll help you find another school. Like, you're just not the guy we thought you were, type of thing. You're on a big scholarship, yada, yada, yada. And so I remember sitting in his office, and I was like listening to him, and I'm like, okay. And I looked at him and I said, listen, I'll come back after, I'm going to go home. I'm not transferring. I'm staying here. I signed here to play. This is where I'm going to play. I'll see you after winter break. After winter break, I came back, and he really lit a fire under me, because I was pissed, dude. Like, I'd never been told, like, you're not the guy, or you're not what we thought you were. And so he got the most out of me there. And then finally getting to Tito, Uh, Tito was very much like, um, I want to say like a, I don't want to say like a father. He was probably like a father figure. Like when you sucked, he was real chill about it, but he would also let you know. And then he really the thing that he did is he always put you in a position to succeed. So, and sometimes he would give you a little more than you think you could handle, but that's because he knew that you could handle it. And so, certain bases loaded, no outs. I remember I came in against Seattle, and it was a game, and he gave me that situation. I was like, "Oh shit! All right, here we go!" Like, and I ended up getting out of it, and it was like, you know, he never put me in a position to fail. So he always seemed to say the right things or do the right things to get you back on track. And a lot of that, I mean, obviously he's been around the game forever, and I'm sure you guys know that he's a player's manager. And so at the major league level, I never had a manager like that. I mean, I had Girardi, uh, I had Woody in Texas, and then I had Tito. And like a lot of the stuff that Tito did, I mean, I watched what he did. I watched how he coached. I watched how he managed. I watched how his relationships with players. And like now that I coach my kids and I give lessons, I take a lot of that, what I learned from him, and mold it into my own. But a lot of that comes from those three managers that I had. And obviously there's some pitching coaches there too. Alan Dunn at LSU really got the most out of me too. I mean, one time he grabbed me by the chest and put me up against the dugout and like let me have it. And I was like, damn, all right. Like, just there's just certain people in your life that they say the right things at the right time, or they approach you maybe when you're not feeling your best, and they let you know like I got your back. And all three, four of those guys did that for me, and it changed the course of who I was as a player and as a person.
So you mentioned that Mariners outing, and it had me thinking. As a reliever, you almost have to be like an adrenaline junkie, right? Like you have
Hmm.
to crave that moment and that pressure pack situation. And with Tito coming back to manage the Reds, I know a big part of it for him is he spent a year golfing and like following Arizona sports religiously. And like that gives you a little bit of that like competitive fire, but there's nothing that like he is so desperate to get back to even like a Tuesday game in late April in a half empty ballpark, but it's 5-4 in the ninth inning, and he's like he was describing it to me as like my stomach's in my throat, and like there's nothing that can replace that. How much do you appreciate that, since like you were a reliever, and like I'm sure the adrenaline you felt when you're jogging in a big moment was like nothing can ever replace that.
Oh, dude, listen, bro. Uh, I'm still searching for that. So as soon as, yeah, I mean, there's nothing. The amount of adrenaline that just is pouring through your veins as as you're running in from the bullpen is unmatched, unrivaled. When I retired, quote, like I'm officially retired, but like when I retired, I went immediately to pilot school because I'm like, listen, and I worked my way up from private pilot to instrument rating to commercial to multi-engine to certified flight instructor. And I
Kind of
did
need you
that
right now, man.
well, I got to get an extra like 1,400 hours or 1,300 hours. So I'm a long ways away, but I mean, I can get us up and down, no problem. But the reason why I say that is because I was looking for something that would match that adrenaline in everyday life. And I'm like, what? Listen, in baseball, you make a mistake, you can go home and sleep at night. As a pilot, you make a mistake, there's a 50-50 chance you're not going home. And so like there's adrenaline there. And I've only had I've only had really one flight where I got close to what it felt like running into a major league field, and that was for my commercial pilot's license. And I remember I was prepared, but like I wasn't as confident as I was as a pitcher, and I and I remember my foot on the rudder was just like shaking. My whole leg was just shaking, dude. And here I am trying to fly and talk to this guy, and I'm like, and you know, a couple of my landings were bounced, but I hit my points, and and I looked at him, I go, listen, dude, I would much rather be throwing in front of 50,000 people and them all booing me than doing this flight right now. And he started laughing. But yeah, I mean, that to go back to Tito, like you're always searching for that. You want that adrenaline high. Like it's something that you can't replicate really anywhere else besides either, in the big leagues or I guess a commercial check flight for me, which is got close to it, but not it wasn't there. But I will say this, being on TV and being on air, I had a little bit of adrenaline. Like I got a little bit of it. I knew I was going to be okay. Like I wasn't going to die if something happened. Uh, but it really challenged me in a different way, like to use my brain to start thinking to maybe not, I have to be careful what I say. I can't just drop,
Hmm.
what I really want to say. I have to like, you know what I'm saying? I have to like, I can't, and so I remember getting off the set for that pregame show. I had pancakes. I might have had some swamp ass and I was like, damn, whew, all right. That was fun. Like I need that. I need that. And so, it's to me it was no surprise when Tito went back to the Reds. I knew he was going to get into the game, and I talked to him, congratulated him, asked him if he needed a coach. I looked to get into coaching, and I would have loved to have been his bullpen coach, um, but they rode with Matt Tracy, who I played with in New York. He's awesome, so it is what it is.
When you're flying a plane, you got all the data around you, right? You got all these needles, and everything's telling you everything you need to do. And I'm thinking of you on the mound when you first start loving baseball. You're just thinking about like what the coach is telling you. No, we just got to keep it down in the zone, and we're just throwing strikes. And they tell you very little amount of things. Hey, just go out there and be athletic. And I think of the way the game is now. Every pitch that a pitcher throws, not just in a major league game, but in the off season, you can track every bit of it. And you are at an interesting point. Your career happened at an interesting point in the game where it existed before you arrived really in the major leagues, the data explosion, but it was really transitioning more into the mainstream as your career was unfolding. Just kind of take me through where you started to where it was at towards the end of your career and how different it was as a pitcher, and maybe if you wanted to tweak something or make yourself better, or even what Cleveland wanted you to work on, how was that different than when you first picked up a ball and thought about, yeah, I'd like to go be a major league pitcher now?
Well, I never really wanted to be a major league pitcher. I wanted to be a major league shortstop. It just happened. It's just so happened that I ended up being all right at pitching, right? Like I was okay, so I ended up working out. But yeah, so in New York, we had Caleb Cotham, who's now the pitching coach for the Phillies. So he was there, and he was a big driveline guy. And obviously, Trevor Bauer kind of shaped that whole deal, and really, I guess, made that popular, the weighted balls and stuff. So and 2013 and 14, I was with New York, and they had Cotham, and I think Matt Tracy was another guy who was doing it because they kind of stuck together. Mark Montgomery was another guy who's a highly touted prospect for the Yankees. Um, and it was very taboo. Like all the pitching coaches were like, you don't do that. Don't do that. Don't throw weighted balls. Like you're going to hurt yourself. But those guys did it. And I would walk over there and pick their brains and talk about it. But it was like, it was like kind of like a no. They had like the scarlet letter on them. But at that point, like the Yankees started really trying to get into analytics. So I remember them taking I don't have a baseball in here, but they would take my fastball. They were measuring my hands on like to see why my fastball played the way it did, like why my 92 whatever looked harder, and why I was getting swing and misses. And so they were measuring my hand. They were looking at all the grips, how I threw my fastball, how I threw my slider at the release point, and all that. And one spring training, they had this chart, and this is like when I first got introduced to it. It was called break Z and break X. So Z was your vertical break, and I think break X was horizontal. I think that's what it was. And it was like they did all the major league pitchers, and they had this T chart. And remember Chris Young, who's he was the pitcher for the Royals for a long time, 85, 6'8", that just like high heaters and just blew it by everybody. So it was Chris Young and myself at the very top of the chart. And I was in the minor league still, but it was at the very top of the chart. And they're like, okay, the reason why your fastball does this is because you get a lot of break Z. And so everybody started calling me Break Z in the Yankees organization, which this is like when it started trickling into like becoming what it was. So fast forward, Trevor Bauer's still doing his thing in the big leagues. I get traded over to Cleveland, and this was 2017, and I started really picking Trevor's brain. Like, what do we got on weighted balls? What's the drive line thing do? And actually, when we went to Seattle one year, we took a trip over to Driveline. I got to meet Kyle Bodie and the guys at Driveline and really like see their operation and see how like beneficial it could be. And then obviously the numbers on people's velocities were increasing as it continues to increase now. And so I started dabbling in. I got myself some weighted balls. I had Trevor. I asked him like, "Hey, what do I need to work on? How can I make my mechanics and delivery better?" And he wrote me this full off-season program, like color coded. I mean, he took time on it. And so when people say he's not a good teammate or whatever, it's BS, dude. He's an awesome teammate. He just comes with a lot of like, media and like you just never know. But like he is salt of the earth, great teammate. And so I started doing the weighted balls. I started getting into that. And around that time, the Yankees, I still had some buddies on the Yankees that were showing me that they were building this, like, whatever they call it now down in Tampa. And so once my tenure with Cleveland was up and then Texas was up, I went back to New York and I got to see what they had now. And they had a full analytical department. So it went in just a matter of like 6 years, or not even, I guess 6 years, it went from that's taboo to like, no, you have to do this. Like, if you want to succeed, you need to learn at least some form of analytics to understand what your pitches do. And then at the same time, like, you need to be in there throwing weighted balls, or you need to be in there getting stronger. And like, when you get on the Rapsodo or the TrackMan, like, understand what's going on. And they have, obviously, like I said, they have all their analytical department that are there watching your bullpens that will tell you, all right, we're trying to design this pitch. We're trying to shape this pitch. This is what you need to do. This is the release point you need to have, yada, yada, yada. And now you look at it, and now you have tread, drive line, like the arm factory, all these. Now it's just exploded. And like, if you're not doing analytics, like if you're not analytically sound or proficient, you're definitely behind the curve. And as far as what Cleveland did when I signed there, Mickey Callaway texted me my heat maps. I remember he texted me my heat maps, and he was like, "You need to throw your slider more." We're in New York. They're like, "You got to throw your fastball more. You got to throw your fastball more." And I got over to Cleveland. He's like, "No, you got to throw your slider more." And so I think that being a 50-50 split, like fastball slider, that it was like a coin flip every time to the hitter. And so I think that really helped me out a lot, because he saw like, all right, his fastball plays good and his slider breaks good. And so I don't know. It was good.
I'm curious, when a new team acquires you like that and they immediately hit you with, "Hey, we've got this plan for you," are you like jacked from that moment? Like, they not only went out of their way to acquire me, but they thought of enough that they think I'm doing this small little thing that they want to change. And does that almost light a fire under you a little bit? Like, oh yeah, I think maybe even I can unlock a new level because they saw something. And does it just give you that extra little, I don't know, addition of fuel to
encouragement?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely did, because I was like, all right, well, the Yankees, they want me to throw my fastball more. Cleveland, they want me to throw my slider more. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'll do whatever they want as long as I can be in the show. So if they want me to throw my slider more, I'll throw my slider more. And conversely, like, it's going to make it better because I'm getting more reps with it, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that definitely helped. I'll tell you a story. I was sitting in the bullpen with Andrew Miller, and obviously he had one of the most elite sliders in the game, and his fastball was like 89 to 99. You never knew what you were getting that day. So it was like a big spread. But he asked me, he's like, "Listen, if somebody puts a gun to your head and tells you you have to throw one pitch for a strike, what are you going to throw?" And I was like, fastball, I guess. And he goes, "You need to get to a point where if somebody puts a gun to your head and tells you have to throw a pitch for a strike, you think about it. And you can go either or. It could be slider or it could be fastball." And I was like, damn, you know what? That's pretty good. So during my lessons, I tell these kids that want to work on stuff. They're like, "Oh, I got 10 different pitches." I'm like, "How many can you throw for a strike? If I put a gun to your head, what are you going to throw?" And 100% of them go fastball, and I go, and right off the rip, there's no thinking about it. It's like right off the rip, and I'm like, "Listen, you need to be at a point where you have to think about it, because some days you might not have it, and you have to rely on something." And so, for them telling me to throw it more was really good, because it did make me have to think about, all right, I could throw either. I got you in the palm of my hand at any point.
I think that's what was cool about Miller too, is then the hitter knows that the slider he could throw for strikes. So even if you recognize it out of the hand, like you still have to think about swinging, and that's how you get guys. I think we were in Oakland when I don't remember who the hitter was, but they're like falling down, flailing at the slider. And, like, what is that like as a pitcher when you know what you just threw is just so nasty or filthy, and you make a hitter look foolish like that? Is that like, do you go home and watch the replay 1,000 times?
Of course, bro. I had to make highlight videos of all my strikeout pitches, and I would throw that up and during spring training, just sit back and be like, it's like a dig me sesh. It's a taste me, because hey, it's a up, dude. You go up and down, like you try and be even keel, but every now and then you'll dip a little bit. You got to remind yourself, like, I'm a dude. Like, I got pitches. But yeah, no. When you see, like, here's another one. Remember Hanley Ramirez? Obviously, we had him, right?
Boy, do we ever.
Yeah. So this is higher level thinking baseball right here. You guys probably don't. Maybe you hear this, maybe you don't. And this is where I was like, damn, all right, this is like 5D chess. Hanley was playing with me. So we're playing against Boston. He's with Boston. He's coming off the DL or whatever, and he's hitting, and I'm pitching against him. And I know he's coming off the DL. I know he had a wrist injury. We went over it. And so obviously I'm going to ask you guys, what would you throw him, knowing that he's coming off the DL and it's a little chilly? Fastball's in.
Jam him.
Exactly. Bebo is catching. I go heater in, strike. I go heater at the top of the zone. He takes an absolute G-hack on it. Falls down, helmet comes off, dreads are flopping all over the place. And I was like, when am I throwing him again? Like, I'm going to go with the heater. He was late. The ball was in the glove. So Bebo goes, slider. And I'm like, slider. At this point, Fenway's booing me, slider. I'm like, bro, no. So he comes running out. He goes, hey, man. He goes, explicit slider. And I was like, did you not see that? He goes, he's playing you. I'm like, what? He goes, he's setting you up for the fastball. And I'm like, no, dude, that doesn't happen. And he goes, throw the slider. I was like, okay. Like, I go, all right, I'll throw it. Like, this one's on you. And so I throw a bastard slider, breaks like 3 feet outside, takes an absolute G-hack, falls over, strike him out. 2 years later, or a year later, whatever, he's in spring training. I go up to him, I go, Hanley, my name's Nick, whatever. I was like, you probably don't remember. Maybe you do. I go, I faced you in Fenway last year or whatever, the year before. I was like, do you remember that at bat? You were coming off the DL. And I go, I threw a fastball and you took a G-hack. He goes, oh, yeah, I was setting you up. I was setting you up for the fastball. He goes, I remember that at bat. It's on the counter, bro. Shut the door. Shut the door. If you come in again, I'm going to atomic wedge you. He just lost his tooth. He's all excited. But yeah, so anyways, he goes, oh, yeah, I set you up for I was setting you up, puppy. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, nah. I'm like, and I went over to Bruno. I was like, bro. He goes, I told you. I'm like, dude. All right. Like, I don't think I ever shook Roberto Perez off, like, ever after that.
He was so
really
intelligent. Like there's a reason why all the pitchers trusted him implicitly. And you learned to pretty quickly too, I guess.
Yes.
But that's like, that's a story like you would hear, as I'm sure you've read in the esteemed novel Cleveland Rocked. That's
Not yet. Not yet. We're getting there. We're getting there.
that's the sort of thing though. Like Manny Ramirez was known for doing that. And I guess you have to be an elite Hall of Fame level player to be willing to like go down an account or even waste an at bat to just trick a pitcher into giving you exactly what you want. But that's the mind games that go on in baseball. Like it's unlike any sport. It's unbelievable.
You heard the Maddox story, right? About he gave up the home run to, was it McGuire or something, or whoever, Bonds or whoever it was? No, Bagwell.
Yeah.
Was it Bagwell? He's like, yeah, I threw him a fastball in earlier in the season. He clipped it for a homer, and then I got him again in the postseason. And he's like, and I'm like, bro, what? I don't even remember like that far back. I would come out of some games and be like, what just happened? Like, I'd look up a scoreboard, I'd be like, oh, damn, I got a 0. All right. Like, you just like, you go into a flow state or you black out and then you like come to when you're in when you're in the dugout and you're just like, and then for Maddox to just be so like zoned in and like coherent through all of that. And not only that, but like remember months ago to set him up for a game in the playoffs was just, that's why he's one of the best pitchers. That's why he's the professor. Like he's the GOAT.
I mean, Tristan McKenzie literally said this weekend, like, baseball players have those weird memories where you have the guys who play every day, you rack up like 700 plate appearances in a year, and yet you remember the 3 occasions with a certain pitcher and how you can adjust off of those. It's insane, but I guess that's what makes all of you guys great.
Yeah, well, wasn't as great as I'd like to be, probably because I had a terrible memory, but I like to think that helped me too. Sometimes you have to have a short-term memory, at least as a reliever, for sure. Because you live and die, every night, and especially back into the bullpen. You save the game, you're a hero. Hey, if we blow the game, it's the only time I'd talk to you two. You, Paul, and Mandy. Hey, what's going through your head? Why'd you throw that down the middle? I don't know, man. But yeah.
I'll take you behind the scenes, though, a little bit on our mentality. We think about that. We think about how, we've been talking to this guy only when things go wrong. So we try to occasionally bank some goodwill, just randomly. Maybe we'd surprise a reliever. Why do you want to talk to me? I just threw the 6th inning. Who cares? But it's like,
yeah.
Hey, we don't want every time we talk to you to be about, oh, no, you left a mistake in the middle of the plate.
In 2013, Joe Smith one day came up to me and said, you guys only talk to me or talk to all of us relievers when we blow a game. And I said, fine, let's make a deal. I will ask you one question every afternoon for the entire season. Would you rather have that? And he said
no.
Probably not. He agreed to it, and then I think I ran out of questions by like mid-May. It's tough. You guys are the trickiest. You're the trickiest people to figure out how to strike that balance.
Yeah, at some point like we want to be talked to. We'd like to. Every now and then. Some guys really just don't care. At all. But some guys are like, hey man, like I threw an inning. Like it was a moment in the game. I want to talk about it. And I can see like now being on this side, the questions that I would ask the players that pitched or whatever would come more like what was your mindset type of thing, or like you guys say, walk me through this at bat, walk me through that. What were you thinking? What but it strikes a dialogue so that it might not have to be every day, but when you do go approach them whenever they blow the game, they know that it's not just like, all right, I got to answer the media only when
I've tried to do that more in recent years. I like the walking me through an at bat or an inning. I remember doing it with Hunter Gaddis last year. He got out of like a crazy jam in Minnesota, and I don't know if anyone had ever talked to him before.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool to see inside your guys' mindset too, of just like, it would have been awesome. Like, imagine if we would have picked up on that Hanley encounter a couple of years ago, and like you could have walked us through that. That's amazing.
Oh,
like, you and Vivo would love talking about that, and we'd love writing about that.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, dude, what? Like, what are you? I'm like, you, like you said, like this guy's throwing away a pit, like now he's down in the hole, 0-2 or whatever, whatever the count was, and I'm like, supreme confidence in his ability is what he had, and then it's just two guys, it's two guys with supreme confidence, and he just happened to throw away a pitch, and Bebo happened to recognize what he was doing, and then there's the trust factor, and then actually having to execute. I probably, to be honest with you, I probably could have threw that slider middle, hung it, and he still would have swung and missed. Like, because he's just sold out on the heater.
I would get in my own head thinking, he knows that I know that he knows. So maybe we do go with the fastball because he's anticipating that I'm going to know that he wants the fastball. That's what's fascinating. Just the cat and mouse that is so, and we fall into this trap where we're thinking about, oh, someone reaches their final form. No one ever really reaches their final form. There's always just constant adjustments and then adjusting off of their adjustments. It never ends, does it?
No, and the thing with any sport in general is there's always room for improvement. So anybody that says like they have it figured out, they might have it figured out for that moment, right? But then the next day is a totally different day with it brings its own challenges, and they have to try and figure it out that day. Nobody truly has it figured out. You have to evolve every day. Just like we're going back to analytics, you're either evolving with the times or you're getting left behind. And it's like you have to do that as a player, you have to do that as a coach, and now working in the media, you have to do it in the media too. So podcasts are extremely, popular, and radio shows with whatever's going on, but like a Pat McAfee show and Foul Territory and stuff like that. Like this is where people get their information now. It's just Joe Rogan, for instance. Like I don't even watch the news. Like if I get news, it's either on Twitter or X or whatever, or like I want to know about UFOs and brains and whatever. I go to Joe Rogan. Like he's got all of them on there.
Now we've got your next appearance already laid out. We already know what we're going to talk about.
I would do a UFO episode. I'm down.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude. Here's the thing. You want to ask bullpen guys a question every day. Ask them, what was the topic of the day down in the bullpen? That's what you talk about. We've had simulation theory. I remember sitting in when we were playing against the Mets, and we would all walk in and do this for Flat Earth. Like this is about the time when that Flat Earth documentary. Well, no, but the Flat Earth documentary on Netflix came out. I can't remember what it was called, and where the guy proved himself wrong, whatever. But they were like, "This is the sign for Flat Earth." So like, we'd walk in instead of high five, and everybody would just be like.
And that's why I feel guilty that we don't talk to relievers more as media, because you guys have the most time to kill every day and not even just in baseball, maybe in like life, you guys, because your jobs require you to just sit there and kill time. And so you have the most interesting conversation. Like you guys are forced to be creative, and we should probably talk more about that.
You want to make $1 million quick? Mic up a guy in the bullpen, rate it like X, R, whatever's above that, and let him rip, and be like, hey, listen, we'll try and clean it up as best we can. That will sell, and I like that right there will sell 100%. I actually I had like a podcast idea. I pitched a little bit to Kayaf at MLB. I was like, hey, we need to have a show where it's like just straight bullpen guys, and we're watching whatever game is on, and we're literally just treating it like we're in the bullpen watching the game, and then kill the show in the fourth inning, because that's when we all go to stretch, that's when I would go to stretch in the fourth, which I adapted from Andrew Miller. But like, so we run it for however long, 30, 40, 50 minutes, and then boom, talk all the UFOs, the aliens, the simulation theories, the Epstein list, the everything that you could possibly think of, and then kill it. And he was like, he liked it, but I haven't got it up and running yet.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if MLB.com or anything. But hey, you're welcome on this show anytime you want. And in fact, I'm already looking forward to the next time, because Nick, we could sit here and do this all day. And if I let us, we actually would sit here and do this all day. But let's wrap it up. Just plug kind of what you're up to, where people can find you, and hopefully we'll be seeing you again soon. Just popping in with us because we have a heck of a lot of fun talking to you.
And on TV, like what a an ascent. Last summer he was TJ. He was like, yeah, I want to get into baseball. I'm not really sure like what I want to do. And now he's on the broadcast of the team.
There he is. Yeah.
Well, that's beating doors down. But hey, actually, they're actually my only gig. So if anybody's hiring, I'm out there. I'm free. Looking to do some more. I want to get more reps. So any way I can get into either media, the SEC network, ACC, ESPN, whoever, Fox, like I enjoy talking baseball. I think it's great to give a player's perspective view on the way that we view the game, because we view it very differently than a lot of people do. We notice certain things that maybe a lot of people don't. But I also do a show, I mentioned Jabba in the Mouth. That's on Mondays is when I get on. I think they're Mondays and Wednesdays. It's like 7 to 9. But it's with Jabba Chamberlain, so another former Indian. But yeah, man, I'm just chilling. Before we go, I wanted to show you this from the 22-game win streak. I don't know how many of you all saw this, but this is probably the coolest piece of memorabilia I have, and that's right there. So that's it. That's an Ace of Spades bottle. So they were going to dish those out in 2016 if they won the World Series. They ended up not. And so in 2017, when we won 22 in a row, they threw them all up out there, and I left mine and asked everybody to sign it. So I got the whole team to sign it. But man, thank you guys so much. Zach, I will start reading this. Thank you.
You don't have to. Hey, the best case scenario is you just talk it up, hype it up, and then don't read it. So because if you read it, you might not want to hype it up as much.
Well, Sandy's got the foreword in there and some other people, so I'm looking forward to it. But I hope to see you guys again soon, man. It was great chopping it up.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Nick. We really
I love
appreciate it.
that 22-game winning streak, by the way, the one that nobody wanted to talk about, and you guys weren't paying attention to it at all. And
No,
okay.
seriously, we weren't. We were blacked out. That's one of those moments. I'll talk to you about that next time.
We're already looking forward to it. Thanks, Nick.
All right, thank you all.